Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Ape Woman. Professor Brian Sykes from the University of Oxford recently made an astounding claim. He says a woman from 19th century Russia named Zana could be the origin for the story of the Yeti. And that's because Zana was an ape woman. She stood nearly 7 feet tall and was found living in the mountains near the border of Georgia and Russia. According to the original reports, Zana was captured by a local merchant in the 1850s after she was spotted trudging through the mountains. People were terrified of her because she was huge and had all the characteristics of a wild animal. She was also covered in thick reddish hair. She looked exactly like what some say the Yeti looks like now. Zana was kept as a prisoner like a wild animal, then was sold to a local nobleman named Yuki-onna. She reportedly gave birth in captivity to at least 4 children fathered by unknown men. Brian Sykes says it's possible that her children could still live in the region. Her descendants might be the very real Yeti that people continue to spot in Siberia to this day. Interestingly, Brian says Zana may not have been entirely human. He believes, based on eyewitness testimonies, that Zana really was a wild beast and that she came from an unknown line of humanoid animals from Africa. She may have been a kind of primitive human species, not unlike the Neanderthal, that miraculously survived in Siberia until the 19th century. And so the alleged Yeti could just be the descendants of the world's last ape woman. What do you think about this theory? Let me know in the comments. Number 9. Ancient parasite. Not all of the strange creatures found in Siberia are big. Scientists recently discovered a microscopic organism that's been thriving in Siberia for billions of years. The worm-like creatures have been alive in the permafrost for 24,000 years and are still functioning normally today. Russian scientists found the tiny animal, which is called a bedelloid rotifer, in soil near the Alizaya River in Yakutia. This multicellular organism, a glorified microscopic worm, is known for living in freshwater habitats across the globe. It's particularly famous for its ability to withstand extreme conditions. Previous research showed these worms can live for up to 10 years when frozen. But this one, taken from over 10 feet underground, has been alive for a total of 24,485 years, encased in solid permafrost. The tiny creatures aren't just resistant to the cold, they can also resist radiation. They don't mind being dried or starved, and they don't really need much oxygen either. They live everywhere from clumps of moss to tree bark and can also be found at the bottom of ponds and streams. They have nothing but a mouth, a digestive tract, and a hole on the other end to excrete their waste. It might not be an exciting creature, but those are the 3 things that constitute a living animal. These things can eat and hibernate to arrest their metabolism. And amazingly, they can survive for tens of thousands of years in a limbo between life and death. Number 8. The monster in the lake. Lake Labynkyr in Siberia has been the epicenter for strange stories of a mysterious underwater creature for centuries. Some have even called the unidentified beast the Loch Ness Monster of Siberia. The lake is a mystery in its own right. While most lakes in Siberia freeze throughout the long and bitter winter, Lake Labynkyr does not. It maintains a constant temperature of 36 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface. Modern scientists think there could be an underground hot spring secretly warming the lake. But in ancient times, locals believed the body of water had magic properties. And so, it's no surprise that they started telling stories of a creature residing within the lake. The mysterious creature is said to be about the size of an orca whale. Some have described it as a prehistoric shark, like a megalodon, except it's supposedly only 25 feet long. Others say it has a long neck like a snake and a fat body like a marine reptile from prehistoric days. Recently, though, a Russian research team from the Russian Geographical Society found the skeletal remains of an unknown animal in the lake. The team geologists said nobody's really sure what the animal is yet because they weren't able to recover the physical remains. They were using an underwater scanner when they came across the jawbone and skeleton of something unknown. But because of the intense depths of the lake, the team wasn't able to bring the remains to the surface. It does appear that something horrifying has been living in the lake, but we still don't know what it was. Number 7. The extinct unicorn. There was once a unicorn living in Siberia. In fact, the Siberian unicorn lived alongside early humans in the Eurasian steppes of Siberia and Central Asia. Scientists recently discovered a fossilized skull in Kazakhstan belonging to Elasmotherium sibericum. This animal was believed to have gone extinct 350,000 years ago. But when scientists did carbon dating tests, they concluded the fossil came from 29,000 years ago. That means the Siberian unicorn was living at a time when early humans were spreading throughout the region, hunting and painting things on cave walls. But what in the world did the real-life unicorn look like? Well, in all honesty, it was kind of terrifying. It wasn't a beautiful white stallion with a horn of gold sprouting from its forehead. It looked more like a shaggy rhinoceros that stood almost 6 feet tall and weighed 4 tons. Just like the woolly rhino and woolly mammoth, it was covered in a coat of scruffy hair. And just like the mythical unicorn, it had a horn growing from the top of its head. One of the scientists involved in the investigation of the fossil, Andrei Shapansky, thinks he knows what happened. He says that Western Siberia was likely a refuge in prehistoric times where the unicorn could thrive. While its friends were dying everywhere else in the world, there was a small sanctuary in Siberia where the unicorns ran free. And now for number 6. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to say a big thank you to Shelly7770H and Destiny Duelist 92 for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries, or dinosaurs, or terrifying creatures in Siberia. Number 6. The alien in the snow. There's been a video circulating for many years now of a dead alien being found in the snow by a pair of Russian men. The clip appears to be legitimate on the surface. The footage is terrible and blurry and was clearly shot using an old cell phone. The video shows 2 Russian men coming upon a dead creature lying near a tree that's partially covered in snow. This is outside the Siberian city of Irkutsk. The creature is definitely supposed to be an alien. It's about 3 feet tall and has a huge head. The alleged extraterrestrial also has gangly limbs and deep black eye sockets. But is this real proof of an alien being in Russia? Most experts are doubtful about its authenticity. They think the whole thing was staged, although it's hard to say why someone would fake such a video so many years ago. The clip is also clearly shot in what appears to be a rural part of Russia. This is somewhere you wouldn't expect ordinary citizens to have fake gelatin aliens on hand. Experts suggest that the extraterrestrial was made using animal parts from a butcher shop. But that doesn't explain how it got its translucent skin. If you watch the video closely, the alien appears to have the proper anatomy for a humanoid organism. In the end, though, there is just no real way of knowing if the alien is real or if it was just a prop. If it was real, we can only wonder what the 2 men did with it after they found it. Number 5. The skeleton of a monster. A coastal survey team in Russia's Kamchatka territory uncovered the skeletal remains of a headless sea monster. The huge skeleton is one of the very few vestiges found of a creature called the Steller's sea cow. These giants of the deep lived all across the globe during the Pleistocene epoch, but their range had greatly fallen by the time they were found by European explorers in 1741. At that point, they lived only around the Bering Sea, and once the explorers found them, they hunted them down. The Steller sea cow was so big that just one kill could feed an entire ship's crew for at least a month. Also, fat extracted from the animal could be used as a substitute for butter. But sadly, 27 years after the Steller sea cow was discovered, it went extinct. The creature was, in all honesty, a gentle giant. It may have been huge and terrifying, but it wasn't a ruthless predator. It was more like a manatee, growing 30 feet long and weighing over 10 tons. The newly discovered skeleton may have been the remains of somebody's discarded meal. Researchers excavated 27 ribs, 45 vertebrae, and a small collection of other bones. But because the skeleton is missing its skull, researchers are wondering if it wasn't taken by a seafarer as an oddity to hang on his mantle. Number 4. The Yeti. Russian researchers looking for the legendary Yeti, the Asian version of Bigfoot, recently made an outrageous claim. They said they had found indisputable proof of the Yeti living in Siberia. The evidence came in the form of strands of hair and tracks stomped in the snow. The research team says it's enough to make them 95% sure that somewhere out in the icy landscape of Siberia, there's a Yeti. Better yet, there's likely a bunch of Yeti, since they would need to procreate. The Yeti is a muscular creature covered in reddish-brown hair that weighs up to 400 pounds. But unlike its North American counterpart, Bigfoot, the Yeti is only about 6 feet tall. Curious explorers and zoologists have been searching for proof of the monster for decades. Expeditions have been undertaken into the remote mountains of Nepal and into the deep snowfields of Siberia, and all to no avail. One of the most famous missions was conducted by mountaineer Reinhold Messner. He stayed up in the mountains of Nepal and Tibet for months, looking for the Yeti based on his own sighting. But at the end of it all, Messner admitted that it was just mountain bears leaving behind huge tracks in the snow. Back in Siberia, the Russian researchers said they found the Yeti's hair in a cave in western Siberia. They also found its footprints and a place where the Yeti was sleeping. However, despite all their big talk, the researchers never got a photo of the Yeti, and they didn't capture it alive. They didn't have anything to offer as conclusive proof of its existence. Sure, the Yeti might be out there, but just like Bigfoot, nobody's ever managed to get a decent photo of it. What do you think? Do you believe Bigfoot or the Yeti are out there? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 3. The fierce cave lion. In the Siberian Arctic, the remains of a cave lion cub were recently discovered frozen in the permafrost. The cave lion cub wasn't exactly the most ferocious of beasts during its life, but it certainly would have been if it ever had the chance to grow to adulthood. When this animal died 28,000 years ago, its feline friends ruled the Siberian tundra. The Eurasian cave lion genetically separated from the ordinary lion about 1.9 million years ago. It then went extinct at the same time as animals like the woolly mammoth 13,000 years ago. It was one of the most terrifying predators in Siberia during the Ice Age. A fully grown adult male had a shoulder height of about 4 feet, with a body length of 7 feet. Just its footprints alone were 6 inches across. The heaviest of these cave lions could weigh almost 800 pounds, making it more dangerous than modern lions and roughly 12% larger. The only thing deadlier than the Eurasian cave lion was the American lion that lived at the same time. The newly uncovered Siberian cub is one of the best preserved examples of a Eurasian cave lion. Because of the ice, its golden fur was perfectly preserved, still matted with mud. Researchers were able to look at its teeth, organs, and claws. And according to them, the cub's claws are still sharp enough to kill. And now for number 2. But be sure to stick around after this video if you haven't gotten enough for 10 more discoveries. Number 2. Bergman's bear. These days, the Kamchatka brown bear is the largest brown bear found in Eurasia. It's a positively beastly creature that can stand nearly 10 feet tall on its hind legs. One of these bears weighs upwards of 1,450 pounds. That makes it equivalent to the Kodiak bear found in Alaska. Except the Kamchatka brown bear lives on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. However, there may have once been a much larger bear that lived here. In 1920, Swedish zoologist Sten Bergman identified a subspecies of brown bear that was much larger than any currently living species. Bergman found a fur hide that was bigger than anything found in the region before. He named the bear after himself, Bergman's bear, and claimed it was a very real monster that had recently gone extinct. Bergman's claim was backed up by ancient native folklore. The indigenous Siberians told stories of a beast called Irkuyem, or the god bear. This was supposedly a great bear that was much larger than a man and could stand 15 feet on its back legs. By all accounts, there were once giant bears of unprecedented proportions living in Siberia. But now there is no evidence of them, not so much as a skull frozen in the ice. These days, nobody knows what happened to these monstrous bears, or if they ever truly existed at all. Number 1. Creepy mummy. At a Siberian diamond mine, workers dug up an ancient creature that they say looks like some type of mummified demon spawn. The diamond mine is located in Udachny, in Siberia's Sakha Republic. The diamond miners who unearthed the creature believe it's a previously unknown kind of dinosaur. However, scientific experts aren't as certain. The mummified monster might just be none other than the remains of a wolverine, a predatory carnivore that sort of looks like a small bear. The thing about the creature is that it was found in material that dates back to the Mesozoic era, between 252 and 66 million years ago. Mining operations have been going on here since the 1960s. There was even an atomic bomb detonated in 1974 to create a bigger underground cavern, which is where the mummified remains of the creature were found. This led many to argue that it couldn't possibly be a wolverine. The physical features of the creature do make it fairly easy to identify. Scientists have looked at it and have said it's likely a mammal belonging to the Mustelidae family. It could be a wolverine, a ferret, or some other kind of small weasel. Experts don't think the creature is as old as the sediment it was found in, but the diamond miners are still convinced they have the corpse of a demon spawn, or perhaps an entirely species of dinosaur. Which of these discoveries do you think has the potential to truly change history? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching! Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more discoveries coming right up! Number 8. The Minnesota Iceman. In 1968, the alleged remains of a snow monster, then known as the Sibirskoye creature, were transported around the U.S. as part of a traveling exhibition owned by a man named Frank D. Hansen. The 5.9-foot-tall carcass appeared to be a hairy, hominid-like being. Hansen's story originally claimed that the creature was discovered off the Siberian coast, conveniently floating in a block of ice. He later claimed it was found by a Japanese whaling ship. Then he said it was discovered in a deep freeze facility in Hong Kong. One popular tale holds that the deceased animal was discovered in Vietnam, close to where Hansen was stationed during the war. The eventual and most widely accepted version of Hansen's seemingly ever-changing story is that the creature was discovered in the Whiteface Reservoir region of Minnesota. In keeping with its inconsistent origins, the carcass was renamed the Minnesota Iceman. Several people who saw the creature up close were convinced of its authenticity. According to an examination by cryptozoologists Sanderson and Heuvelmans, the ape-like barrel-chested animal had large hands and feet, a thick neck, and broad flattened face with an upturned nose. Heuvelmans even published a scientific paper identifying the creature as a new species of living Neanderthal. Not all experts believed the Minnesota Iceman was real. Primatologist John Napier of the Smithsonian Institution was invited to examine the specimen and concluded that it was made from latex. Hansen claimed that Napier was exposed to a fake because he withdrew the genuine model from display out of fear that he'd be criminally prosecuted for killing a human-like creature. Most people believe that the Minnesota Iceman was an elaborate, albeit not very organized, hoax. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 7. The Yeti. The Yeti comes from Nepalese folklore and is described as a tall ape-like creature covered in shaggy fur. They live high up in the Himalayas, and many Sherpa told visiting Westerners to be careful, since they often saw their footprints in the snow. The first photographic evidence of the Yeti was produced in 1951 by respected British explorer Eric Shipton, who captured an image of a large hominid-like footprint near the border between Nepal and Tibet. Ever since, numerous expeditions have attempted to come face-to-face with the legendary beast. Yeti fever truly took off in 1954 after the Daily Mail set out to find the creature, which at the time was simply called the Abominable Snowman, according to modern-day author and Yeti seeker Daniel Taylor. Throughout the 50s, an American oil man named Tom Slick launched several search missions, even bringing along bloodhounds to try tracking the Yeti scent. Taylor of West Virginia is one of today's top experts on the Yeti. At the advice of the King of Nepal, he went looking for it himself in the country's Barun Valley, one of the wettest, thickest environments of the Himalayas. He found a strange human-like footprint that was large with an opposable thumb. Jackpot! Well, not really. To his disappointment, what Taylor thought was a Yeti footprint turned out to be the impression of the paw of a tree bear, which, unlike most bear species, has opposable thumbs, giving its paw print an eerily human-like appearance. Even the Russian government organized a conference of Bigfoot experts in 2011, and an expedition that claimed with 95% certainty that they had found physical remains. Professor Brian Sykes of Oxford University also collects and examines Yeti artifacts. Most of the items he receives belong to bear or sheep, including those analyzed by DNA sequencing. Nobody has proven that the Yeti exists. Even with DNA technology, we seem no closer to finding the fabled creature. Still, some people are die-hard believers, and sightings and footprints continue to be reported. In April of this year, the Indian Army claimed to find Yeti footprints measuring 32 by 15 inches near Makalu Base Camp in Nepal. Do you believe that the Yeti is out there? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6. Barbagazi. Native to the French Alps along the modern-day border between France and Switzerland, the barbagazi are fairies, or little people often depicted as gnomes or dwarves. They resemble a cross between a miniature Santa Claus and an elf, with pointed ears and a long white beard with icicles hanging from it. In fact, this beard is how the barbagazi got their name, which translates to frozen beards. The barbagazi are most recognizable by their unnaturally huge feet, which they use to ski down the mountain slopes. They spend the summer months hibernating inside the tunnel system and caves of the mountains, emerging only after the cold weather sets in. Unlike the rest of the creatures I'm going to tell you about, the barbagazi are friendly. They don't interact much with humans, but on these rare occasions, they're known to be kind. So, not terrifying, but they are still interesting. They even save lives by whistling to alert people nearby of impending avalanches, and by helping shepherds find lost livestock. They're also capable of tunneling through the snow. I wouldn't mind running into one of these guys. They seem alright. What do you think? And now for number 5. But first, what is your favorite mythical beast? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell if you're new here to join us. Number 5. Yuki-onna. The name Yuki-onna translates to snow woman in Japanese. This deadly monster appears as a beautiful woman who lost her life in the snow. Depending on the legend, Yuki-onna's method of attacking her victims varies. According to some myths, she causes travelers to become lost and leaves them to die of exposure. Other stories claim that she creates blizzards, causing travelers to perish in the inclement weather. In one myth, Yuki-onna carries a young child named Yukinko, who wears a traditional Japanese straw snow cloak called a Yuki-mino. She freezes anyone who tries to steal Yukinko from her, even if it means invading their homes by blowing the front door open with cold air in the middle of the night. I don't know why people are going around trying to steal her child. Yuki-onna is also a seductress who freezes unsuspecting men to death with her icy kisses. Nobody knows for sure why Yuki-onna victimizes innocent people. Some believe she simply enjoys doing so. Others think she feeds on their life force or blood. There's no known way to escape Yuki-onna other than by getting her to show mercy, which is possible in rare cases. She's been known to occasionally spare people's lives, including a youthful and handsome man who later unknowingly married the snow monster. Whoops! Number 4. The Ijiraq. The Ijiraq is a shapeshifter of Inuit mythology who kidnaps children and people with naive and innocent hearts. When it's not shapeshifting, an Ijiraq is invisible, so nobody knows what it truly looks like, making it very difficult to spot. Ijiraqs are very deceptive and can appear in the form of any living being. But these creatures dwell between the world of the living and the dead, and the place they call home cannot be reached by adult mortals. Most humans that manage to go near the Ijiraq's home become confused and somehow get turned around. The only people that ever get to see where the Ijiraq lives are their victims, the children that they steal. The unsuspecting little ones are cruelly lured away from their homes by the monster. Once caught, they are hidden, abandoned, or eaten. Even the kids who are lucky enough to be spared from being eaten never see their villages again and suffer for the rest of their lives. By paying close attention to their surroundings, children can avoid being kidnapped by an Ijiraq. When one approaches, it makes a human-like whistling noise, but this sound cannot be attributed to any visual source. Kids who hear this whistling sound upon meeting someone are told to run for their lives to avoid becoming an Ijiraq's next meal. Number 3. The Mahaha. The Mahaha is another creature of Inuit mythology, but it's a bit sillier than the Ijiraq. It's a humanoid being with long frozen hair and ice blue skin that's cold to the touch. Unlike actual humans, the Mahaha doesn't mind the cold. In fact, it nonchalantly goes about its day shirtless and barefoot, with a diabolical smirk plastered to its face. The Mahaha might sound terrifying, like the Joker, and if you come into contact with one, it's a good idea to be scared because you're indeed likely to meet an untimely demise. But with a smile on your face. This monster has bony fingers with long nails and attacks its prey by tickling them to death. Legend holds that the Mahaha's victims meet their end with contorted, frozen smiles on their faces. The Mahaha isn't very intelligent, providing targets with the advantage of being able to outsmart it. Potential victims are encouraged to ask the foolish monster to join them at a nearby watering hole, and to simply push the creature into the water when it bends over for a drink. The currents will take care of the rest by sweeping the Mahaha helplessly away. Good to know, I guess. Number 2. The Nuckelavee. The Nuckelavee is a demonic winter monster of Orkney mythology and, as you're about to learn, is truly the stuff of nightmares. For most of the year, it's trapped in the water at the hands of a powerful female sea spirit called the Mither of the Sea. During the winter, the Nuckelavee emerges from the watery depths. This terrifying creature looks like a horse, with the upper half of a human protruding from the middle of its back. The human-like portion of the monster has arms that are too long and drag along the ground, and a head 3 times too large, which loosely bobs back and forth. It has fin-like appendages where its hooves would normally be. The horse head part of the Nuckelavee has one blood-red eye and a gaping mouth. This creature has no skin, instead displaying its muscles, black and yellow veins, and other insides. To make matters worse, it also has terrible breath, which kills crops and causes livestock and people to get sick. Ew! After the Nuckelavee appears, drought follows, and if someone comes into contact with one, it will chase after them. To escape it, the person must run across a freshwater body. The Nuckelavee is a saltwater creature that symbolizes sickness, and it therefore can't stand freshwater. At one time, people feared the monster so much they only spoke about it in hushed tones and didn't dare utter its name. To be safe, any discussion about the Nuckelavee was finished with a prayer. It's possible that the story of the Nuckelavee was used to explain sickness, particularly the plague and harvest troubles. Number 1. The Chenoo. Chenoos are human-like ice giants from Native American legend around Maine. They're much bigger than people and also enjoy eating them. Great! They will rub themselves with pine resin and then roll around on the ground so the leaves and dirt stick to them, creating the perfect camouflage. Then they will wait for an unsuspecting person to walk by. Legend is they were once humans themselves, but became Chenoos after being possessed by evil spirits, or as a consequence of committing the crime of cannibalism. The despicable act of eating another human is rumored to turn someone's heart into pure ice, which sets the transformation from person to monster. A person can also become a Chenoo by withholding food from someone who's starving. Usually, the only way to escape being a Chenoo is through death. In some stories, however, it's possible for a Chenoo to revert back to human form by extracting or somehow regurgitating its icy evil heart. Once the heart is removed from the Chenoo's body, it must fully melt in order to be completely destroyed. Then the Chenoo must fill its empty chest cavity with a human heart. Once this is done, the creature is once again considered a person. Easy peasy. Thanks for watching. Winter and its monsters are coming, you guys. Which one did you think was the scariest? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!